Hey, what's up? This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It is Friday, April 15th, 2022. I'm Norm along with Mike. It has been a long time coming, 12 days exactly since we did a show. And over that period, the Leafs have gone 8-1-1, pretty much solidifying a spot in the top three in terms of playoff performers and contenders in the
But
East.
but guess who they lost to?
Yeah, we know. We'll get into that, Mike. We have a lot of things to unpack. It's been such a long time since we've been together. First things first, it's really windy here in London, Ontario. So if the power goes out and we lose the signal, we may come back, we may not, in one piece. We'll try to do a show in its entirety in any which way, shape, or form we can put together from now until we finish up. The other thing is, I've been away, convalescing after a minor surgery. An umbilical hernia had to be repaired, but it's central to everything that goes on with my body. So I have been relaxing and resting, and I haven't gone to work for the past several days. So I'm in the throes of recovery, getting better. That's why we're doing this show. And I'm off to the Blue Jay game with my son, my daughter, and of course my lovely wife on Sunday. So we figured we'd leave early. Let's get a podcast out of the way. You have our assurance that we're going to do as many shows as we possibly can between now and when the Leafs win the Stanley Cup, and we wrap up the Leafs Convo and perhaps go into something else when it's all said and done. But Mike, without further ado, the floor is yours. You can get this thing started however you want, and we will progress from there.
Well, let's start with what happened most recently, which was the 7-3 win over the Capitals. Coming on the heels of another loss to the Buffalo Sabres, in which, finally Sheldon Keefe said what I've said many a time, and I think a lot of Leaf fans recognize is whenever they play Buffalo, they don't show up. And he said,
You're going right back to the Buffalo game, Mike.
yeah,
The
no, no,
team's won eight games of their past 10, and he's
I
scored
don't.
58 goals.
Honestly, I don't care. The difference between you winning the division and finishing in second or third is beating teams like Buffalo, beating teams like Montreal, beating teams like Arizona. And they've lost to those three teams, three of the worst teams in the league, even though Buffalo is remarkably improved from what they lost to them since January 1st 7 times.
If the Leafs took on the Sabres in a playoff series, the Leafs would win in 5
Buffalo, the
games.
Sabres would win. The Sabres would win. Anyways, but they bounced back from that pathetic effort with a really good effort against a playoff team, against the Washington Capitals. Tom Wilson ran amok. He tried to turn Jack Campbell into Ichabod Crane. He got into a fight with Kyle Clifford. He sent Alex Kerfoot flying, so much so that it looked like he was flying over Scarborough.
But the Leafs still beat them.
Yes, but you have to be able, especially in a playoff scenario, to be able to weather and respond physically, and they did. That's what Clifford was there for. But it was a really good offensive effort, and it wasn't Austin Matthews taking the team on his back. You had Nylander with 2 goals, you had McCabe with 2 goals, you had Michael Bunting breaking a 17-game goalless skid with 2 goals, and Ilya Lyubushkin, that offensive juggernaut, getting his first goal as a Leaf. So, it was a good victory, and they got production from a number of players. And I asked Sheldon Keefe after the game about Pierre Engvall, who's playing fantastic right now. So, it was a good victory, and they're on that positive path, and they're 4 points ahead of Tampa Bay. But
so Chris Daniels, the Leafs also had 40 hits in a fight. It was 43 hits, outshot the Capitals. That's one thing I've noticed over the past week and a bit. The Leafs have it. Forget the Buffalo game, okay? I don't know what sorcery has condemned the Leafs to lose to this team on a constant basis. But minus the Buffalo game, I'm getting a sense, just like these other playoff teams that are worth their weight in the postseason, the Leafs are doing their best to ramp up. And I've noticed even in guys like Mitch and Austin Matthews and some of the defensemen, Giordano, there's an intensity there. There's a sense of we can smell it, we can feel it, we can see it on the horizon. Just with more hits, more shots. The Leafs are a juggernaut offensively, and they leave some things to be desired in other places that we may see fulfilled when this playoff comes upon us. But I'm getting a sense that they're getting a sense of the moment, and whether they win, lose, or draw, my friend, that's a good thing right now.
Well, I mean, okay, are they ramping up towards the playoffs? Sure. Are they playing some of their best hockey of the year? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think how they played in November was their best moment of the season because they were playing really good defensively
Mm-hmm.
and scoring consistently on offense. Right now, I think they're playing where their offense is dominant and their defense has been okay but not great, and their goaltending has been okay but not great.
How good can those two components of this overall package, how good can they be, Mike? I mean, they
Well,
are what they are, aren't they?
but that's the problem, Norm, is the fact that when you get into the playoffs, your offense cannot cover up the other wanting areas of your team. It's like
Right.
in the playoffs, it's always tight. It's always close checking. It's always physical. And if you can play that game, then you can win playing that game. And if you can't play that game, then you're going to lose. And that's what I'm saying. Do I think that they're better prepared for a playoff scenario than they have over the last couple of years? Sure. Are they good enough to play? And we'll talk about this, to play the team they're likely going to play and beat that team, the team that has won 2 Stanley Cups in a row? If you ask me to bet money, I'd say no. But
What are the odds the Leafs beat Tampa? Are the odds greater the Leafs beat Tampa, or Tampa wins another Stanley Cup? I mean, winning one is hard, winning two is harder, winning three. Don't you think their day of reckoning is coming? And maybe the Leafs can be the ones to hand it to them.
Honestly, I think they're lying. I think they're lying in wait.
Okay.
I think what's going on right now, because Tampa has not played well over the last, I'd say, 3 weeks. They're not going anywhere. They're going to finish either in third or in the first wild card. They've got the playoff spot locked up. They're like, why don't we just conserve our energy? And when it hits May the 1st or May the 2nd or whenever that first round series goes, they're going to be in fifth gear. That's what I'm concerned about. That team has championship pedigree. I watched a 1-0 game between Dallas and Tampa Bay early last week, where it was Stanley Cup playoff caliber. And the reason it was that way is because Dallas is fighting for their lives to make the playoffs. And Tampa really didn't have anything to play for. Vasilevsky was standing on his head. It was high pace. It was physical. There was lots of chances. And, in the end, Dallas won on a 1-0 game with a goal with like 5 minutes left to go in the third period. But I watched that game and I'm like, I don't know any team that would want anything to do with that team. And right now, if the season ended today and we have 2 weeks to go, but right now Tampa Bay's got a 3-point lead over Boston. The Leafs have a 4-point lead over Tampa. Toronto's in second place. Tampa's in third. It's Toronto-Tampa. And honestly, that's I think that's the matchup I want to avoid, but they may not have any ability to avoid it.
It seems inevitable. This is the Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. OG's Conference, you can reach out to me for all of your vehicle needs. A lot of people want hybrids. A lot of people want electrics. You can afford a hybrid. You may not be able to afford an electric right now. Not that you can't afford it in terms of ownership, but to purchase, they are very expensive. And that's one of the things with us, right? I'm straight up honest with you guys. We can look into it, though. Mach-E's are an award-winning vehicle. If that's something you would like to pursue, I can certainly help you with that. Trucks will never go anywhere. I know the Trudeau government has aspirations to, eliminate these beasts at some point down the line. I doubt it. We shall see. But until I'm not allowed to sell them anymore, I can certainly help you with that, guys. This show is a bit of a mishmash. Where the power may go out. I'm having my first dab in a while. Yeah, it's my podcast. I can drink, whatever. And Mike's already had too many, so we've had to cut him off. So we're gonna just kind of bounce around with some of the comments in the chat. as well as community. We're just having a blast getting back together after almost 2 weeks away. We couldn't keep away that long, and Mike and I are hoping that we can collab many a time between now and when the Leafs hoist the Stanley Cup, sometime later this spring, perhaps early in the summer. I don't even know how long these playoffs are going to go, but Jake Muzzin has been brought up a couple of times. Jeremy Dubb, do you think it's possible both Muzzin and Hall sit if Sandin gets healthy? And
No.
there's one other thing I wanted to add to that, and I have to get him into the show because he's been right on point. Robbie Robertson, thoughts on Muzzin? Is he done on the Leafs? Lots of other healthy left-handed D. His style of play doesn't bode well for longevity.
Well, okay, first of all, he has 2 years left in his contract, so no, he's not done unless they buy him out, and they're not buying him out. There was some concern about concussions since he's had 2 of them, and it took him a long time to come back from the second one. He's not going to play in either game on the weekend. He's dealing with some non-concussion issue. And right now, they're pretty much, they have 7 defensemen, so they have the luxury of being careful with him and making sure that he's 100% going into the playoffs. So they're going to play Hall, who sat out against Washington. They're going to play Hall. They called up Kristen Rubens as the 7th defenseman, but they're going to be careful. But I've heard it said, well, one more concussion and his career's over with. That might be something that in the off season he thinks, okay, I can't see him retiring and giving up 2 years worth of.
But how will he know?
Well, no, I mean, if he gets concussed again in the playoffs, then it's a distinct possibility that he could. And I'm not looking for that.
Retire before you get concussed. That's the thing, right?
Well, no. I'm saying if he gets concussed another time in the playoffs, then that might be a discussion that they have in the offseason. He's got young kids. That has to be a consideration, and I know that he's talked about that. But they're not looking. The Leafs are not like rubbing their hands with glee, hoping that he retires or hoping that they can. And no, that's the thing. They were talking about that at the deadline to use.
You can't resist, eh? I could have just put those up just to be seen, but you.
Well, yeah, no, I'm
like a cat. I need to get the little cat toy out.
Where's the carrot and there's the stick? No, I mean, I that was the talk at the deadline that put him on LTIR so you can make a trade. And they said, no, they're not going to do that because him stepping into the lineup right before the playoffs or right in the playoffs is not something that will work. Now, I'll tell you something right now. I think Giordano has been excellent. The addition of Lyubushkin has been really good. I hope that they, and this is the thing. Lyubushkin is a UFA. Giordano's a UFA. Sandin is an RFA. Liljegren's an RFA. All that, that's a lot of business there. And they don't have a lot of cap room. But
I know where you're going with this, Mike. He just scored his 29th and 30th, man.
Yep. Yeah, my arm's hurting right now. But I'm saying they have a lot of business that they have to do. One of their best players over the last, I'd say, 25 games has been Ilya Mikheyev, who's a UFA at the end of the year. Right. So, if this team has success in the postseason, they're going to want to lock these guys up. They're going to want to bring them back, and they just don't have the operating room to be able to do that. Now, I think they can get Lyubushkin signed. He seems to like it in Toronto. I think that, maybe they can get Giordano if he wants to continue his career, and unless he goes back to Calgary, maybe they can get him to sign like a veteran, not a minimum deal, but a couple million a year. You could see Justin Hall being gone at the end of the year. But I'm just saying, in the here and the now, right now, going into the playoffs, Lyubushkin has solidified the right side. Giordano is playing quality minutes. If Muzzin is in there, then you're, more than likely it's either going to be Hall or Liljegren, who's played great over the last few weeks, on that blue line in the playoffs. And I think their blue line is really good. But again, you come up against a team like Tampa, and it's going to be really tough.
You need players who are ready for the grind. Jim Bianchini, good to see you, buddy. I'm not sure Muzzin can handle top 4 minutes any longer. That's clearly related to the concussion and his the things that are the drawbacks physically for him right now. I mean, who wouldn't want a guy who won a Stanley Cup with the Kings? And we've been talking about a veteran presence. We've been talking about the solidification of the defense back there and keeping it calmer, more relaxed, more professional. He would, I mean, in theory, he's the perfect guy. Um, but, but, um, there's a bit of recency bias here too, Mike, because Labushkin has played well, because Giordano has come on board,
Yeah,
because the Leafs defense has skewed, trended a little bit better, um, in terms of goals against becoming less. And it's not as if we're looking to Jake Muzzin to say, if you don't show up here soon, this whole thing is going to blow apart. So, I mean, that's a good thing. The other question that OGs are wondering right now, and you were in Toronto for the game yesterday, what's going on with Rasmus Sandin? I mean, there's a guy who you'd love to have in, right smack dab in the mix because of all the great things that he can bring. But, he's wrestling with issues himself physically.
yeah, it's a knee injury, and they're being very careful with him, from what I understand. And I didn't see him before the morning skate yesterday because I was up in Toronto for the game. But apparently, he did skate. But they're slowly bringing him back. Remember, this is a knee injury. I think it is the same knee that got taken out by Neil Pionk in Winnipeg a few months back. So they're just being careful with him. He's part of the future. He's a big part of the future.
Sure.
And right now, the thing is, I don't know as their blue line is currently constructed whether he gets in. I think more than likely they're going to go with the veterans to start the playoffs, which means probably Justin Hall playing in the top six. Yesterday they had Muzzin playing with TJ Brody. That was an excellent second pairing. Labushkin has basically played with Riley, and that's been a successful combo. And then they had Giordano playing with Liljegren. So they've been mixing and matching their defensive pairings. I think that essentially Keefe is looking at that and saying, okay, I need to adapt to potential options in the playoffs in case somebody gets hurt or in case somebody plays bad. I need to know who plays well with who. So that's what they're doing. But I'm encouraged by the way that their defense is playing. But again, with this team, it's not the blue line, it's the team defense. And still at times, and that's why I keep bringing up the Buffalo game, that was not just on the blue line. That was on like Matthews and Marner getting caught deep, on William Nylander falling asleep when the net was pulled, or when the goalie was pulled. I mean, just things like that. And you say that those are little piddly things. Details matter when it comes to the playoffs.
But what do you make of it? The Leafs are 8-1-1, and that full-fledged loss came to the Sabres in the same fashion it did in that Heritage game or whatever the fuck that thing was a few months ago, the disaster in Hamilton. The Leafs are Buffalo is Toronto's kryptonite, and I'm not trying to equate the Leafs with being supermen by any means, but the Leafs are one of the top teams in the league.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we look at it, don't the Tampas, and the Carolinas and some of these other star-studded teams, the Pittsburghs and stuff, don't they have traditionally a team that knocks them down a peg or two and brings them back to reality? I mean,
Yeah,
every great team has a team that they have trouble beating, and I'm not making excuses for it, but I'm just trying to put it into perspective right now as we kind of barrel towards the playoffs. That Buffalo game was a joke, but they got back on the horse a night or two later, and I'm thinking, geez, if they can keep playing like that, limit the goals against, fill the net, I mean, they're going to go into the playoffs with as much confidence as possible. And let's face it, considering everything this team has gone through, what it's up against, the stakes that are riding on this on a good playoff performance, I'd rather this team go into the playoffs with a good head on its shoulders, all guns a-blazing, ready to rock, than back into it with their tail between their legs, hoping for the opposition to lose its nerve.
Well, that's why I'm illustrating the point by saying also they played Arizona, also they played Montreal, and they've lost to those two teams 7 times. I think that detail matters, and
Mikey.
we'll see if it matters when it comes playoff time. If if all of a sudden, I mean, I heard somebody describe it as well. They're bored when they play these teams.
No.
I mean,
Come on.
I can't.
That's just plain out stupid. And I'm
Right.
not disrespecting the person who said that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right, but that
these aren't the 76 Canadians.
That was something that was reported from inside the team. That's the point.
Sure. Right.
So if that's the mentality, then that's not an attention to detail.
Right.
That's something that matters. But
no.
And you said they're 8-1-1 in their last 10. Well, the other one, not the loss to the Sabres, was a game that they led 5-1 at the middle of the second period and allowed Florida to come back and win 7-6. And what does that bring memories back of? 4-1 in the third period of Game 7. These details matter. I don't care if they've won like 19 of the last 20. You've got to be able to, when you're up by 4 goals in the third period, to step on that team's neck and kill them.
So the thing is, right now, I'm feeling more confident than I have felt about the Maple Leafs, and I'm not telling tales out of school. I'm sure most people not just agree with me, but feel the same way. However, for as much as we feel like this team it doesn't really have anything else to prove at this point. We know who they are, even with these 8 games to go. These 8 games to finish up the 82-game schedule are not gimmies. These are not games the Leafs can be bored with. Ottawa, so you have the Battle of Ontario at Ottawa. You think the Senators want to let the Leafs roll over them? You have the Islanders. You have Philadelphia, Tampa, Florida, Washington, Detroit, and they finish with Boston.
Yeah,
like there's a lot of meat left on that bone, Michael Augello from Chickasaw, New York, USA.
Well, here's the dilemma that I wonder, and I already know the answer, but if they have second place locked up, and they're playing Boston in that final game, and a victory by the Bruins puts them in third place instead of Tampa, what lineup do you think the Leafs are playing against the Bruins? I hope they'd call up the Newfoundland Growlers, because I would want to play Boston instead of Tampa. That's how much. Now, they're probably not going to do that because that would be disrespecting the whole process. But I'm telling you right now, call up Michael Hutchinson and say, "Take me, I'm yours." I mean, what I'm saying? It's like I would, if I'm the Leafs, I want to play the Bruins. I don't want to play Tampa, but that may not even be possible because right now Boston is without Pasternak, without Lindholm. They have a rookie goaltender, and they lost to the Senators yesterday. And more than likely, Tampa is going to put enough of distance between them and between them and Boston to be able to make that potential question there. So we'll see.
So Jim Bianchini in community, youtube.com/Leafs Convo /community says the Sabres are the vein of your existence.
Of my existence? No. Honestly, it's like I'm people say that I make too much of a big deal about it. I looked up their career record against Buffalo. I mean, it's been in Buffalo. Their winning percentage is about .333. So that
you've given up trying to save face with your Buffalonian buddies, right? You've already laid down your hockey stick before them to say, look, yes, the Sabres.
They own them.
The Sabres own my team.
They own them. Especially in Buffalo. And the thing that's infuriating, and I tell all my friends on the Niagara Peninsula, all my friends in the GTA, don't waste your money going to Buffalo. Don't buy tickets. Don't travel down the QEW to go to a Buffalo game if your expectation is that you want them to win. If your expectation is to go down to Buffalo, have some wings, go out for a few beers go to the Anchor Bar to watch out, you might get murdered.
Check out Salem Field.
Yeah, check out Salem Field and some hot dogs and
Walden Galleria.
Yeah, there you go, Walden Galleria Mall. And
places I know.
Don't leave your sneakers and shoes in the parking lot. But okay, that's great. But don't go there to expect the Leafs to win, because they don't. They never.
That's amazing. And you think back to when the Sabres were one of the top teams in the league. That offense. Who was it? Chris Drury, Brian Campbell,
Danny Briere,
Danny Briere,
Derek Roy, Ryan.
Was that a Lindy Ruff team?
That was a Lindy Ruff team.
Right. So it was like what, 04, 05, 06?
06 and 07.
Kyle Wellwood and the Leafs and Paul Maurice on the bench. They'd go down there and get a 4-0 lead, and they'd lose late. And so even in the circumstance when the roles were reversed, the Sabres would come out on top. This isn't as if the have-nots somehow take it to the haves. Every 5-6 years when the team switch places in the standings, each other has to take it on the chin. It's just traditional.
And it doesn't matter. The Leafs are the best team in the league. If the Sabres are the worst team in the league, when they play each other, the Leafs lose. But yeah.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, but okay, we're overemphasizing a game that essentially is meaningless. But the whole point is, attention to detail means something. I look at this team right now, and Austin Matthews and Marner are playing at a high level. John Tavares had 4 assists last night against the Capitals. He's playing really well.
He's got 73 points now.
Yeah, with Mikheyev and Kerfoot as his wingers. Nylander is playing with Engvall and Kampf in
30 goals.
Yes, but by the way, look at his minus. Look at his plus minus. I think it's the worst on the team. It was minus 16 the last time I looked.
And he's aware of it too. I saw a quote where he was making fun of the fact that he's a minus guy. So he's very sensitive to the criticism.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay. Then
so are his fans.
Okay. Well, then do something about it, folks.
72 points for Uncle Johnny, 71 points for Nylander. Michael Bunting played in his 100th game professionally. I thought this guy plays like he's been around for 500 games.
Well, yeah, in the AHL.
He's a
no, I know.
Guy, when he's on the ice going, oh shit,
he played.
Bunting's out there, he's gonna fuck up. I don't get that from him.
He played 3 full years in the American Hockey League before he got a cup of coffee last year with Arizona, and he scored 10 goals. And then Dubas and Sheldon Keefe knew him from Sault Ste. Marie, so they took a flyer on him. And he's leading NHL rookies in scoring. So that was a home run for Sheldon Keefe and for Kyle Dubas. You don't expect that guy to come in and replace Zach Hyman on the first line. Now, he's not Zach Hyman. He's not as defensively sound as Zach Hyman, but he's playing for $900,000. He's got, I think, 57 points, 58 points, something like that. It's an absolute home run, and they got him on that contract for another year. So what
do you make? Again, I don't think this wasn't intentional. It just he spent quite a bit of time in the minors. Like, what would you? Why do hockey teams do what baseball teams? Like, you look at Adley Rutschman and Gabriel Moreno, and these are like top flight catchers, like the top prospects in baseball. They've spent time in the minors. Like, they get drafted, they get their signing bonus, and then they go right to the minors. It's not like the Alex Rodriguez kind of thing or Derek Jeter. I don't know how much time he spent in the minors, but there were some guys who were just straight to the top.
Yeah.
What do you make of that, and how do you think it would benefit some of these cats if they gave them extended time in the minors? Like, in Timothy Liljegren spent quite a bit of time in the minors, and I guess that would be dependent upon just how much they're needed in the show, right? With baseball, there's players galore. You can always have somebody fill a spot for a while, but with hockey, right, you've got one minor league serious team to speak of. If you can't fill that position with anybody else, I mean, you may have to just
Well,
cut this
just
guy a check and get him into the big show before he's truly
well,
ready. So Bunting coming up, doing as well as he has and not being a problem, he's just had a lot of time to season. If the Leafs are, you'd think they'd bode well if they had a really good, strong team and players to feed it, but players who could feed it taking their time in doing so, right?
well, just look at the Leafs power play and the players on the Leafs power play. Austin Matthews never played a game in the minors. Neither did Mitch Marner. They went right from junior or right from Switzerland in the case of Matthews right into the NHL. John Tavares, he played junior, and I don't think he ever played a game in the American Hockey League.
Right.
Nylander came over at 18 years old. It went into the American Hockey League for half a year, then played the first half of the next year, and then was in the NHL and stayed in the NHL. So and Morgan Riley played a few AHL playoff games, and then he was in the NHL. Jack Campbell was in the ECHL and the AHL. I mean, they're different paths. Michael Bunting played, I think, 3 full years with Tucson and only got a chance with Arizona because they're a ridiculously disgraceful organization.
But time spent down there has to be worth something, Mike. And players have different trajectories to the show, right?
Sure. No, I mean, he used it to gain experience, and I think he's a much more complete player. I mean, remember, he's 25, turned 26. Most young players who are played 2 or 3 years in the American Hockey League, they're 23, they're 22, 23, 24 years old. So he's got a couple years on them. So, it's a success story. Now, do I recognize that that's going to be, what he's going to be for the rest of his career? Who knows? But right now, he's the perfect fit with Matthews and Marner. He had a 17-game goalless streak that he snapped with 2 goals yesterday. So he's a success story. And, and somebody in the chat was talking about Matthew Knies. I'll just say, I think this was the right decision. He decided to go back to Minnesota for another year. He's 19 years old. I know the Leafs wanted him to turn pro, and I think they would have given him an opportunity like they've given Nick Aberzies a chance to play in the NHL this year. But in the end, I don't know how much he would have played. I think it was more like, let's get him signed. Let's play him a few games. Let's play him with the Marlies, and then he might be the Ilya Mikheyev replacement next October, when Mikheyev likely probably signs someplace else because he's pricing himself out of a job in Toronto. I think the chances are about like 1 in 5 that he comes back, not because they don't want him, but because they can't afford him.
Right. So with Matthew Knies, though, you think about this guy for a second. He's projecting himself to be an NHLer, whether it's with the Leafs or, for a short time, long time. But this guy has an opportunity to go back to play university hockey. I was lucky enough to play NJCAA and NCAA baseball, as well as played a year for the Abilene Prairie Dogs, Mike. A lot of fun that was. But I'll tell you right now, you don't get that experience back. And for a guy that didn't have to mortgage everything to just get his shot with the Leafs, and already has a sense of where he's going to end up eventually, and knowing what he'd have to deal with now. I'll tell you, if it's your last resort, playing for the Marlies is an amazing thing, and being in Toronto and all that kind of stuff, but it's not as much fun as playing college hockey for one more year. You know what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah, no, I mean,
we're always thinking of, well, what's best for the Leafs? What's best for this kid?
I mean, Owen Power was the first pick in the NHL draft, and he went back to Michigan for another year, and that was beneficial to him. I mean, he played in the Olympics, he played on the World Juniors, he played on the World Championships, and then he's in the NHL. And Matthew Knies, if you told me that he was going to make the U.S. Olympic team, even without the NHL going to the Olympics, I would have said there was no chance. And he had a great year at Minnesota. He's a big kid. He's showing a lot of skill. He goes back to Minnesota. He has a chance to win a national championship. And after that, probably in March or early April of next year, he turns pro, and then that's like a trade deadline.
He's got it all, man. He's got it all. Would you rather be hanging around with a bunch of guys who can't speak English on the Marlies, or being the king of the campus at Minnesota, knowing millions are waiting for you anyway, right? And
Yeah,
so he's got the opportunity to do so. It's not as if it's like, hey, guess what? The doors are slammed behind you. Your college career is amazing. Clean out your dorm and get the hell out of here. The guy can go back and enjoy the benefits of playing college hockey, potentially win another championship, and go on. It's like a major league players, and this first the guy who was picked in the first round. Major league players who were drafted in the fifth round, but go back to college because they know they'll be a top 10 pick the year following, right? So this guy's got it good. And the other thing too is, what's the urgency of, oh, come on, play it for the Leafs now. He's not in it for you. He's in it for himself. And that's a good thing. I'm really excited to see that. Austin Matthews, there's always talk, and there will always be talk, and it will certainly inflame and ramp up to a disgusting level if the Leafs flame out in the playoffs early. That Austin Matthews eventually one day will leave the mecca that is Toronto for greener pastures, not necessarily more fruitful, but closer to his home and stuff like that. 58 goals in 69 games, 101 points. He's the third fastest Leaf to get to 100 points. Look, I think he's got a Hart Trophy written all over him.
Yeah.
He's wonderful, just a great player, fun to watch, a dominant, best, maybe right now, pound for pound, the best player in the game at this moment, just based on what he's done, who he's doing it with. He plays a three-zone, two-way game that he probably doesn't get enough credit for. But can we just let this thing be what it is? And can we just not let this guy lead this team to where he needs to lead it to? Because it's not so much about, hey, if we don't do well, he's going to leave. This is number 34's team, and he's accountable. And this is never mind about what's coming up down the line. It's about now, right? Because I'll tell you what, if he flames out in the playoffs and I'm not happy with his performance, I won't want him to go anywhere. But I'll tell you right now, talk of him going somewhere else, from our perspective, would seem more legitimate. So this guy has something to prove, not just to the team and the fans and the game, but to himself. You know what? That after all these years, he can be that kind of player. And if he can do it, and the Leafs aren't showing him enough gratitude, well, it's their loss. If he can't do it, then that just stirs the pot a little bit. A few more minutes and we'll get out of here, Mike.
I know that Elliot Friedman a couple weeks ago in one of his 32 Thoughts columns mentioned Matthews, and that there's not a lot of worry regarding him going anywhere else because A, he's going to be paid top dollar by the Leafs. B, unless he's going to another contender, and it's unlikely that's the case, because how could they afford him to pay him probably the highest salary in the league, or at least equal to Connor McDavid? I don't think he's going to go someplace where it's a rebuilding scenario, because he wants to win a Stanley Cup. Now, the thing is,
where is all this talk about him going back to Arizona? What is this born from?
It's born from
there. Who cares?
No. Well, no, and it's not necessarily Arizona. It's born from the fact that he signed a 5-year contract instead of an 8-year contract coming out of his ELC, and he's turning to be a free agent at age.
Good, he did something for himself.
No, but that's the reason why. And that's the whole. Okay, people, Leafs fans always think of the worst case scenario. Why? Because it always happens. That's why. Now, I don't think it's going to happen here, because I think the Leaf organization is in a direction where they're going to be perceived as a Stanley Cup contender over the next few years. Now, to be a Stanley Cup contender, you got to win a round, and that's where,
exactly,
and that's where okay, and if they lose in the first round to Tampa, is it going to be Austin Matthews' fault? Well, if he scores 4 goals in 7 games, no. If he scores 0 goals in 7 games, then he's not part of the problem, but he's part of the reason why they lost. So, you can keep banging your head against the wall thinking that, it's going to change something, and it's not. That's why, like, if they lose, and maybe I shouldn't talk about this because, maybe they can win, but if they lose, it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be Kyle Dubas that's going to get fired because they had another great regular season. It's going to be changing the roster. So they have to fundamentally change the roster and be a different type of team because they can't keep saying.
But even if they win a playoff round and go again, it's one playoff round win doesn't a Stanley Cup run make or whatever the hell. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Like, so.
Well, but some people think that
is the bar, Mike, is the bar. You cannot tell me, even though this team has had trouble winning a first round, it hasn't at this group. You cannot tell me that the bar is winning one round.
Some people think that once they win one round, then the floodgates will open and they'll they'll and
maybe
anything's possible.
Maybe. But if not, do you think that's sufficient to say this? So it'll go from we've won no rounds in the Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares era to one round. And never mind how you're ridiculed, it's still not worthy of winning a Stanley Cup. You've got to go to the finals. You've got to get to the semifinals and get that taste. And then you'll say, this group is the group we need. If you win one bloody round, that doesn't mean William Nylander will be, exonerated from being on the trade block in the summertime. It's this team would still need changes, and he's the easiest piece to move.
I agree, but I think if they win a round or two, then they're probably going to say, well, we're not going to change things fundamentally because now we're going into a positive direction. If they lose in the first round, then I think that dramatic changes will happen. And I don't think it's going to be in management. I don't think it's going to be the head coach. I think it's going to be the construction of the roster. But okay, we're doing sort of the Monday morning quarterbacking here before the game on Sunday has been played. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks before the regular season ends. Again, I'm not encouraged by the fact that they're likely to play Tampa because I think Tampa is a juggernaut, but I thought Tampa was a juggernaut a couple of 3 years ago and they got swept by Columbus. So anything's possible.
Mm-hmm. The team has offense in abundance with Matthews, with Marner, with Tavares, with Robertson coming up, with so much offense from behind the blue line. You can't tell me this team is a trade wouldn't help this team. Again, it's just where he finds himself and whether this team fizzles in the first round or wins a round or two. If they haven't, even if they win the Stanley Cup, what's the objective now? Nothing. You still want to get better. You still want to unhinder yourself from the shackles of certain things that hold this organization back. And we cannot say whether this team succeeds or fails that contractually, it's an open horizon to do whatever the hell it wants, right? There's still, there's still a constricted boardroom right now, financially. And again, that'll have to be dealt with at some point, especially if a guy like 34 is on your radar for a big payday. And again, you can't win championships unless you have people who are making a lot of money, and there are a few people making a ton of money, and that's going to have to be resolved at some point. Real quick, Mike Bossy just passed away. 10 seasons in the NHL, 9 of them with 50 goals or more. 1, 2, 3, 5 of those seasons with over 60 goals. He's not talked about enough, man. Wow.
No. His career was when, basically through my teenage years, and the best goal scorer I ever saw. And I'm including Wayne Gretzky. He was a better, more pure goal scorer than Wayne Gretzky. I just remember him streaking down the right side, scoring goals. I know the Sabres played him in the semifinals in 1980 when they were on their way to their first Stanley Cup. 4 cups in a row, Canada Cup. He's just a classy, fantastic player. And, that Islander team, there weren't many likable players. Brian Trottier was a pain in the ass, but a really talented player. Clark Gillies was, one of the bigger,
Butch
enforcers.
Goring, Dennis Potvin, Billy Smith. You didn't like Billy Smith?
No, of course. I mean, Billy Smith. Billy Smith was butt ending players in the face, in the throat.
So here, just a couple things. I know that a lot of the OGs want to talk about now, but you know what? Now will be history at some point. And I tell my kids, and I sound like the old fogey. You will be old like one time too. I was your age, and I thought I would be young forever. And all of these kids going on about recency bias and boomers and stuff like that. Man, you talk your game. Love your life, because guess what? It's going to change. You're gonna have kids and fucking mortgages and divorces, and it's coming. But hey, we can do whatever the hell we want on this show. Mike Bossy, 752 games, 573 goals, 1,126 points. This is Bobby Orr-esque in terms of the time frame he played and his production. Now, he won all those Stanley Cups, which is great. He's not a Marcel Dion kind of guy, or a
he retired at 30.
Who's the guy who played the French Connection with the Sabres? Rene
Robert.
No, Gilles Perreault.
Perreault.
These guys were amazing. They didn't win shit, right? And there are other players out there who are like that. But he won a Conn Smythe, a Calder, so he was Rookie of the Year, and he won 3 Lady Binks. The thing is, he was overshadowed. We don't talk about him enough now. They didn't talk about him back then because he played for the Islanders. And you had all these other they were right in the smack dab of the Canadiens run. Obviously the Gretzky era, Lemieux coming on. He didn't get a chance to win anything, yet his numbers would have just been lights out versus if those other players didn't exist, he would have been the best player in the league. But it really is, it's something to behold. HockeyDB.com, look up Mike Bossy, guys. Like, the numbers are just astounding.
For somebody my age, Bossy was talked about a lot because at that point he was the best, like I said, the best scorer in the league. Gretzky came in, I think, in 79, and he had was fantastic early on in his career and great throughout most of his career. But, remember the Edmonton Oilers in those years, they lost to the Islanders. They lost the 4th Stanley Cup to the Oilers, or the Oilers lost to them, and then the Oilers finally beat them. But that, those two teams, I mean, there were years where it took the Oilers some time to learn how to win and learn how to play in the playoffs. And if you want to extrapolate that to what we've been talking about on the show, teams, they have to lose and lose to find out what it takes to win. And that's where, maybe the Leafs have lost enough and felt enough pain and realized how they have to play in the playoffs. The Islanders lost. The Islanders lost to the Leafs in 78. Lanny McDonald in Game 7 in overtime. They lost to the Rangers in 79 to John Davidson, and when the Rangers went to the Cup against the Canadiens, they felt pain, and then they won 4 straight Stanley Cups. So maybe through defeat comes victory.
Yeah, the Leafs will definitely have to raise their level of game. The Jays say they're going next level this season. Mike is skeptical about that.
I don't think their pitching staff is good enough.
Yeah, Kikuchi is just, I don't know what's going on with him, and Ryu are a problem for me too. I need guys who throw harder and with more authority, right? Anyway, we'll talk baseball throughout the summer, Mike. But here's the thing. The Leafs have to be the beneficiary of the opposition losing its nerve. And every single year, the opposition seems to rise to the occasion. And that's the occasion of beating the blue and white. The Leafs need some puck luck. They need some things to go their way. But you can position yourself to win, or you can position yourself to lose. And it seems right now, with 8 games to go, and there's still some tumultuous contest between now and Game 82 to come. But it seems as if the Leafs are trending upwards in terms of their overall mentality, the way they're playing in 3 zones, how they're keeping the puck out of their net. And you know what? It might be a Shalgren-Campbell switcheroo. You may have to bring somebody from the press box to eat some valuable minutes. this could be a war of attrition down the line, but collectively as a group, I mean, could be a lot worse. So as long as they position themselves to do well and go in guns a-blazing and perhaps get some puck luck and perhaps have the opposition lose its nerve this time, then they win that first round and we go on to the next round. Mike, last word for you.
I will patiently wait for that game one and that first round series, and I will be the skeptic saying, prove it to me.
Right. Right. And that's the thing. You can win game one and be excited. Win game two, be excited. You can go back on our podcasts, our combos over the last several years, going back to 2018, so the 19, 20, 20, and how we were up and then down and up and down. And then, the kerplunk, the splat, and then you and I having to take a couple of days after the Leafs lose that series to just muster up enough stuff to say without breaking our smartphones and our cameras and our laptops, right? So there's a long road ahead, but it could be a lot worse. Maybe that's the slogan, the Leafs Convo. It could be a lot worse. Anyway, Mike, I'm going to let you get out of here. Enjoy the games on the weekend. I'll certainly enjoy the games and the Blue Jay game with my family on Sunday. I will be back to work on Monday, so I got to get out of this convalescence because it goes from, nice, calm, serene, relaxing environment to one that, especially with a young family,
Convalescence.
Yeah, exactly. It turns a little crazy. So I need to get back to normal. And with me getting back to normal, we'll get back on a regular schedule and we'll just kick some ass and take some names along the way. Okay, Mike?
Sounds good.
And yes, Erish, we are watching the Raptors too. For Mike, he's nice watching the Buffalo Bulls. For Mike, I'm Norm. This is the Convo. We're out.